This time on the Highland Woodworker.
So we're always looking for the books that are the most work possible, that kill our stomach lining and make us lose sleep, because those are the books worth reading.
Christopher Schwarz gives us an exclusive look inside his Lost Art Press publishing headquarters and shows us their latest books hitting the shelves and tools hitting the mark.
The more you use it, the more you find that it does things that are unexpected.
Plus, Popular Woodworking Magazine's David Thiel shows us some wonderful tricks using washers in your workshop.
So don't throw them away. Keep them in a box. Keep them handy.
These stories and more this time on the Highland Woodworker. Hello, I'm Charles Brock and I'm a Highland Woodworker. 40 years. That's how long Highland Woodworking has been providing the finest tools to woodworkers and the best woodworking education, if I do say so myself. Several years ago, we profiled master woodworker and author Christopher Schwarz in his Kentucky home and shop. Well, his publishing business has grown, and they even have a new location. Come with us now and we'll check it out. All right, so you're an urban woodworker.
Yeah, I am. This is Covington, Kentucky, and this is in the shadow of downtown Cincinnati. Cincinnati is about 7 blocks that way. And it's an old, very German town. So this is a middle-class German neighborhood founded in the late 19th century. And German was spoken here. It was not a very American area. In fact, they call this area Mainstrasse. Still do. But we came here because we've always loved Covington, even though we lived in the suburbs. This is kind of like the Brooklyn to Cincinnati, like Brooklyn is to New York. It's a little grittier. It's cheaper, and we're writers and furniture makers, so cheaper is good. You got to have that. But there's also a lot of other woodworkers and glass makers and metal workers. All that surrounded us, and that was another real attraction, is that people still make stuff here.
So this is the home for Lost Art Press. How long have you been here?
We bought the building about 3 years ago. I've been a little more than 3 years ago. Been working here every day since, even when it was purple and covered in glitter, which is how it was when we bought it.
So you've been making it yours?
Been trying to take it back to the way it was when it was built in 1895, and basically just have gutted the place and tried to restore it back to the way it was in 1895 when it opened up as a German fancy grocery and beer house.
Well, this is wonderful. Looks like you have a class going on today.
Yeah, this is a class that Brendan Gaffney is teaching in making a sector, which is a very ancient direct measuring device that helps you proportion things. And so it's a little bit of tool making, a little bit of woodworking. And so we put on classes here every couple weekends, either myself or Megan Fitzpatrick, or sometimes an outside instructor like Mary May is coming next year or so. But it's this is our bench room. It's also the bookstore. It's the part of the research library. It's a little bit of everything, but this is where we do all the bench work.
Well, it looks like you've delved into the world of tool making.
Yeah, quite a bit, and more so. So I'm working with Rainey Nelson and John Hoffman, and we're trying to build tools that we really need as furniture makers. A lot of times, there's a lot of great tools out there, but a lot of times tool makers aren't woodworkers, and so sometimes the designs miss a little bit. And so, when we came up with this holdfast, which is based on a French holdfast that someone found on a dung pile, we were looking for the details that made this holdfast work better than any other holdfast we'd ever used. And so, it was kind of deconstructing it and finding that, the shaft doesn't taper. And it's of a particular size that's really tightly fitted to the hole, and a bunch of other little small details that mean this holdfast will always grab. The thing we're working on that's just coming out is, this is a lump hammer that we make up in Indiana. So Rainey machines these heads, and people might say, well, it looks like a stone hammer or something, but in England during the 20th century, craftsmen such as Alan Peters, they started using these instead of wooden mallets. So this is like a wooden mallet that's on steroids. As far as assembly and disassembly, when stuff is really tight, when something is seized, this will just do things that a wooden mallet can't do. So you find that they would use these instead, and the more you use it, the more you find that it does things that are unexpected. So it weighs almost 2.5 pounds. And a lot of people end up using it for chiseling and mortising, especially as you get older. You don't have to swing.
As a chisel hammer.
Yeah, is that you just drop it. So you lift it and you just let it drop as you're mortising, and so you're not going to get that tennis elbow either. And so I've been using a lump hammer for years now, and I just couldn't imagine working without it now. But so we're trying to introduce this to the United States market as a way of working that has been historically proven in other countries, but it's never caught on here. So it's a pretty unusual tool.
How about the marring from it? I mean, that's one of probably the first questions. It's not wood. It's not as malleable as wood.
Yeah, but you look at my chisel handles. So these I hit with it all the time, and I haven't cracked a handle. I mean, I just have the same normal marks that I would have with a wooden mallet.
Well, that's proof.
Well, yeah. I mean, and all my mortising chisels are fine too. So here's. I mean, I've been hitting that with a mortise chisel for years.
And you don't have to hit it so hard.
No, it's the weight. It's the weight, and let it release. So that's that, and then we also have our dividers. Whoa.
Right.
Yeah, we have our dividers, and so these are. I use dividers all the time in layout work and measuring and direct measuring. What's different about these is this head up here with a wrench. You can make them as tight or as loose as you like. This isn't designed to lock it. What it's designed to do is to keep it so that you can use it one-handed. So you don't have to turn a screw. And so this would be, the old blacksmith-made dividers were like this. So they were one-handed tools, so you can make subtle and slight adjustments on the fly with just a one hand. And if it does wear after months of use, you can tighten it up to where you like it. But these were very tricky to manufacture because of all the compound curves and chamfering.
They're actually quite beautiful.
Thank you. These were designed by Rainey Nelson, and they are very nice. But these are kind of the symbol of our company, and was one of the first tools we tackled, which was probably not the best idea because it was really hard. It was a 10 out of 10 as far as machining goes. And so we're working on a bunch of tools like that. We have a list of 20 things we want to do, but these are 3 of the first things that we've come out with. So this area back here, this is part research library, part publishing. This is where we do 4 to 6 books a year, so we have all of our publishing computers and big scanners back here. This is a small fraction of the historical texts that we use for our research. Everything from the Foxfire books from the pot smoking 60s and 70s to 18th century Roubaud volumes, hand-bound and calfskin, and all these sort of form the backbone of what we do, so that when we're publishing stuff, we try to advance the ball instead of just repeating. This is one of the Roman workbenches. So this is from Salzburg, Germany. So this was a direct copy of the oldest existing workbench we know of. It was about 187 AD, and this workbench was thrown into the well when the Germanic hordes were going to overrun the fort of Salzburg. And about 1900, they dug this out of a well, three workbenches actually, and it's there. And so it was figuring out we have this bench, but how does it work? What are these things that move up and down, these sort of dovetailed shaped stops, and how does the planing stop work? This isn't the original planing stop, but we have an original planing stop based on what was found at Salzburg. And so that's a lot of what we do is like build. So this is a copy of what the Romans used. How does it work? I mean, and it's surprising how subtle and sophisticated these benches are. They're not just a place to sit and slaughter a hog or something. They can do real work, and quite a lot of it too. But Romans didn't just have low benches; they also had low and high. So they were in some ways a little more advanced than us in that they sat down. And they could conserve a lot of energy that way. Is one thing I found. I can plane a lot longer on this than I can standing up. So this was, like I mentioned, a German bar and fancy grocery. This was part of the original beer garden. And so part of this outbuilding was gone, but this is, beer gardens are an essential part of Germanic, culture. And so we don't use it for beer as much as we, have some plants and sort of an area to decompress in the afternoon and occasionally drink a beer. But this is the beer garden, and then if we go through here, we call it the horse garage because this was built in 1905 and it was listed as stables, but it was clearly built for a car. Yeah, I don't know why we have that.
Well, you always need your knockers.
Yeah, but yeah, knock knock. But this was probably built by the resident using a Sears machine that would make these concrete blocks. This looks like a modern cinder block, but its building was actually 1905. And so they listed this as having for horses. I really seriously doubt there are horses here, but it was an early garage for cars. Cinder block or concrete block buildings became very popular as people got cars in the early part of the 20th century and they didn't want the garage to burn down, so they would build it out of concrete. But this is our machine room. So when we have a class or we have to break down a lot of stock for a big commission, we have machines. Though we like to use hand tools as much as possible, there is donkey work involved in furniture, and if you're trying to make a living at it, it's very difficult to do it all by hand.
Yeah, the hybrid shop makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even call it a hybrid shop because, I think that's the correct shop. Like, there has been woodworking machinery for 500 years, whether it was steam-powered, water-powered, horse-powered, whatever. There were sawmills, planing mills, all that stuff has always existed. There was probably not a time when anybody went into the forest and chopped down a tree and made a highboy. It's just a ridiculous idea. So if you're a furniture maker, you got your wood from somewhere. And so I think a well-rounded woodworker has the skills to do everything by hand. But they recognize that machines can allow them to make more by hand, more things, or make their articles more affordable, which is what I seek to do, or allow them to do things that they just wouldn't have time for in their lives, if they made everything completely by hand. So I'm not, plus I don't like anybody who's just, you got to do it this one way. I mean, because that just almost never happened.
What have you got new going on at Lost Art Press?
Well, we just released Joshua Klein's first book on Jonathan Fisher. It's called Hands Employ to Write. And it's the most unlikely woodworking book we've published. So it's about this 18th century woodworker and his life on the frontier in Maine. Mm-hmm. And why would a woodworking publisher, that we do how-to, why would we publish this book? And it's because it's the most complete look that we can get into what somebody's daily life was like in the 1700s. He recorded everything. We have all his furniture, his diaries. Josh Klein found all this stuff and put together this portrait that's really unexpected. Like, we have an idea of how we think people lived and worked in the 18th century. It's not really like that at all. And it's fascinating because a lot of us, when we're building stuff, I think we think, that it connects us to the past in some ways, and the future. I mean, I think it's important that it's part of a whole continuum. It's not just wearing funky clothes and and building stuff by hand, but that's all part of it. We're part of this long continuum because the history of people is inseparable from the trees and us building things with them. But being able to understand where we came from is just sort of mind-blowing, and that it's a lot different. It's a lot more foreign world. So that book just came out. We just had Welsh Stick Chairs, which was John Brown's book that blew my head wide open back in the 90s and turned me into a chair maker. And that book, trying to get that back in print, has been a lifelong battle, and we finally got that back in print. And then we have a very unusual book coming up that I'm just finishing up work on by David Savage, who is a British woodworker. And he's somebody who operates at an area that you don't see written about, which he is a furniture maker of like the highest technical, I mean just way higher than most of us, and builds stuff for sheiks that are like 20,000 pounds for a little table. What is that world like? Yeah. You know, how do you design for those people? And what is your shop like? And how does your business run? And so his book is a look into that sort of world, like if you were at the level of Tafrid or Krenov and you're running a business. And it's a fascinating book to see how furniture that you can't even conceive of how it was designed or made is actually designed and made. So stuff like that. So we're always looking for the books that are the most work possible, that kill our stomach lining and make us lose sleep, because those are the books worth reading.
Coming up, we'll head back to Lost Art Press, where Christopher Schwarz exhibits one of his favorite chairs that took him 15 years to master. But first, how some washers you have laying around your shop could really put you ahead of the curve. You're watching the Highland Woodworker.
I'm just an average, down-to-earth woodworker. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably about a 5. But one place I score a perfect 10 is right here, and I plan on keeping all 10. That's why I have a SawStop table saw. And there's more. Plenty of power, superior dust collection, and absolute accuracy. These features have made it the best-selling cabinet saw in America. Let Highland Woodworking help you put a SawStop in your shop.
What is quality? Is it quick? Forgettable? Easy? No, it isn't quick or easy. It isn't forgettable. Quality takes work. It takes time. Quality lasts. And it starts at Bell Forest, a leading global supplier of figured and exotic woods. Order online at bellforestproducts.com.
A lot of folks say they just don't make tools like they used to anymore. I don't know, I suppose that's true in some cases. But the good stuff is still out there. I'm talking about the tools that are just a pleasure to use, that are well designed to get the job done quickly and efficiently, and are made to last so they'll get passed on to the next generation. Whatever tools my grandkids use, I know one thing, they'll be keeping them Tormek sharp.
Woodworkers count on American-made Forest saw blades for smooth, quiet cuts every time, without splintering, scratching, or tear-outs. The famous Woodworker 2 is the all-purpose combination blade. But for special cuts, Woodworker 2s are available for cutting dovetails, for flat-bottom joinery. A 30-tooth blade is perfect for ripping, a 48-tooth blade for superior cross-cuts, and a finger joint blade set. There is a perfect Forest Woodworker 2 for every table saw cut. Highland Woodworking has been a leader in woodworking education for more than 30 years. They offer all kinds of woodworking classes year-round, ranging from how to hand-cut dovetails and mortises to how to sharpen a plane or a chisel, how to build a cabinet, a chair, or a bookcase, or how to turn a wooden bowl. There are classes on wood finishing, French polishing, and even antique furniture restoration. For a list of upcoming classes that may interest you, just look in their catalog or go to highlandwoodworking.com.
Hey there, Highland Woodworker fans. Here at Popular Woodworking, we are happy to share our tips and tricks with you for every episode. Take a look at this one. Hope you enjoy it. Today we're going to talk about some tricks with washers. Most of us have a few of these of a variety of different sizes laying around in a drawer, in a box, something in our shop. If you've got one that's just one, don't throw it away because they're kind of handy. There's a couple little tricks here. I'm going to show you what to do with them. Just like the coins that are always in our pockets, we can use these washers to give us defined corners, defined radiuses. Does it matter what the radius is? Well, yeah, you can measure it and figure it out. 1.25 inches, it's a 5/8 radius, but that's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the shape that appeals to us. So we can use the outside of this to say, yeah, that's pretty nice, but maybe we want to use something smaller. Line it up with those two sides, give us a mark. Maybe that's too small. Nonetheless, you've got different sizes to use any way you want to define radiuses on the corners of your pieces. So don't throw them away. Keep them in a box. Keep them handy. Now, one more trick. All of these washers come pretty close to matching mathematical equations, sizes-wise, in our world of woodworking. The distance on this one is 3/8 from here to here, 1/4 inch here, 3/16 here, and an 1/8 there. Why is that useful? Well, let's say you've got a curve, and it could be a complicated curve, much more than this simple curve here, that you need to be a little bit bigger, or you need to offset it. So you take your pencil line here, and you decide, well, I need that to be 1/4 inch bigger, or I need to make the piece 1/4 inch bigger. You can try and measure that over, but you're not going to follow the curve. But you can take this washer, set it right there, put your pencil on the inside, and follow along the outside. And you've got your 1/4 inch spacing right there. And again, for any size you need, simple enough. Hope you enjoyed that trick. Look for another one on the next episode of the Highland Woodworker.
Still ahead, Christopher Schwarz explains the form and function of his Welsh Stick Chair. You're watching the Highland Woodworker.
For 35 years, Lee has manufactured the world's best joinery jigs. From our award-winning dovetail jigs and mortise and tenon jigs, to newer innovations like router table jigs. Easily add strong, beautiful joinery to your woodworking pieces, like half-blind dovetails, box joints, mortise and tenon joints, and through dovetails. Lee, simply the easiest and most versatile router joinery jigs.
Whiteside Machine Company has been in business for over 30 years, providing customers with quality American-made router bits. Fine Woodworking Magazine has declared Whiteside router bits best overall and best value when compared against 17 other brands. No matter the router application, they have the type and profile of carbide router bit you need. When you put a Whiteside router bit to work in your shop, it is guaranteed to make you smile. Highland Woodworking stocks a wide selection of Rikon power tools, known for their innovative design and rugged durability. Highland has sold thousands of Rikon's industry-leading bandsaws with sizes to fit every woodworking need, from the compact affordable 10-inch model to competitively priced 14 and 18-inch models. Shop us also for Rikon's reliable planers, lathes, and professional low-speed grinder, all with an exceptional 5-year warranty. Rikon Power Tools. If you can't make it to Highland Woodworking in Atlanta, Georgia, you can shop online at highlandwoodworking.com. They're great at getting what you want to your shop quick. Moment with a Master is brought to you by Highland Woodworking. Fine tools since 1978. Let Highland's legendary wood slicer resaw blade help make it easy for you to get great results sawing thick lumber into thinner boards. The wood slicer is designed to cut much faster, smoother, and quieter than ordinary bandsaw blades. You'll be amazed at how smooth a surface you'll get with a wood slicer. Its variable tooth pattern greatly reduces noise and vibration. Order a wood slicer from Highland Woodworking for your bandsaw today. Chris, I have enjoyed watching you jump into the world of seating, or the chair.
Yeah.
It's not really simple, but it shouldn't scare you away.
No, I've been building, this is what's called a Welsh Stick Chair, and I've been building this chair since, this style of chair since 2003. So I've been involved in chair making for a long time, but as far as like, you have to really know it deeply before you're ready to talk about it with other people. And so I've spent the last 15 years really trying to understand this form and why I love it. You know, I love it because it's very simple, and it's not very formal, it's very vernacular, and they all kind of have a rakishness with these legs, and they look more like an animal that's gonna pounce on you and bite your leg.
Yeah, it should look like it's kind of moving when it's still.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm after, and that's what I've always loved about these chairs. And so, but it's taken me 15 years to kind of get my head wrapped around how they work and what I like about them and how to make them comfortable, because there is no cushion. You know, there's nothing with this. And how do you take a piece of wood and cradle the human skeleton so that you're comfortable? Or how do you alter it so your mother-in-law gets up after 20 minutes?
That's a real test of form and function. That's what we have here.
It is, and so where I start with this is, I mean, you have several elements. I mean, the first is the seat. So we'll start down here with the seat. And so how far up the pommel, we call this the pommel, is to the floor is one of the critical things. So you have like about 17 to 17 and a half inches is going to be kind of your average seat for dining and maybe keyboarding. And as you lower that, a couple things happen. Number one is you take off the pressure here from the thighs.
Right.
And so the sitter starts putting more of the blood and the weight on their feet. So actually it can be a more comfortable chair. It's a way to like instantly make a chair more comfortable for shorter people. Yeah. I mean, it seems obvious, but most people don't think about, oh, I'll just lower the chair. So that helps, but the downside is those chairs are harder to get out of. So you're trying to find a balance depending on the sitter, you know, when you're trying to make a chair for a customer, is like, what is that distance from under their knee to the floor? What kind of shoes do they wear? And what is the chair going to be used for? So I'm going to go somewhere between 15 and 17 and a half, depending on how tall they are and their legs. The second thing you can do is what a lot of people don't think about very much is like, how far back does this seat lean? And so if you put a level on the pommel, most chairs, you know, dining chairs are going to have about 1 inch, are going to fall backwards about 1 inch. If it's completely level, like here, if you look at this, that's completely level. You know, if the chair were, if the seat were here, you'd feel like you were in church all the time, and that's not what you want to feel. So when you're sitting, you want it to fall back about 1 inch for dining and keyboarding. If you want this chair to be something that you relax in, what you would call an easy chair, or down here in Kentucky we'd call it a setting chair, then you want about 2 inches. So this all the way back, there's about a 2-inch fall, which most chair makers or most woodworkers would say that's enormous, like that's a huge difference. I would never go that much. But I've been experimenting with seat falls a lot, and it takes a lot before you get it tipped too far. And 2 inches is about where what happens at 2 inches is that when your bottom hits this, it slides your whole body back. And then the next thing you encounter that's important to comfort is in the Welsh chair is called the arm bow. And so you can adjust the position of the arm bow to hit them in the lumbar spine. And that's where what I'm after with the height of the arm bow is number one, find their lumbar, which you're going to be about 8 to 9 inches usually on the average sitter, but some people are different. They're short-waisted or they have big torsos, and so you want to look at where that lumbar spine is so that when they slide back, their lumbar encounters this, what we call the doubler on the arm bow. And then the next thing that happens is like how far back, when their butt slides back, the lumbar hits this, how far back are they leaning? Now, a typical chair, a typical dining chair, when you go to what we call the spindle deck here, where all the spindles are, if I put a square here, right at the spindle deck, the arm bow would probably start right about here. So it would be like, it would tilt back so that if this is hovering kind of over the center of the spindle deck, that's probably about 6 degrees. But what I have found is that, and this also gives the chair life from a design point of view, is to take that a little further. So if you look at some older chairs that were designed to, like when you sit down, you want to sit down because you have been working all day, is that the arm bow, this back edge of the arm bow, is going to be tangent to the back of the seat. And that gives this chair kind of its, blowing in the wind, leaning back kind of look. Yes. But it also, moves, your bottom slides back, hits the lumbar, and then you're resting backwards. And that's a really comfortable angle without feeling like you're going to need a hydraulic jack to push you up forward. That's about as far as I will go. And then the last thing is what we call the crest rail up here. And when I start off with a chair that I'm trying to fit to a customer, this is going to be about 24 inches is where I'm going to start. And this isn't where 24 inches is probably up about here. Some people will want a really tall chair just for the appearance sake, and then it's 26, but then this crest rail becomes kind of irrelevant because it's way up here. It's not touching your back. But if they want something where this is where the arm bows, the crest rail is gonna cradle their back, you need to pay attention to where this is in relationship to their shoulder blades. And so once you have this positioned and this is in the right place, then I'm going to get them to sit down and I'm going to adjust this up and down until it hits or avoids their shoulder blades, depending on how big the person is actually, because bigger people are actually going to want, if they're really wide, are going to want to avoid this. They would rather have it a little higher, I found, whereas smaller people with smaller shoulders will like the cradling right below the shoulder blades, at least in my experience. So all those things are how I kind of fine-tune a very simple chair to be something that's very personal. And
because there are personal chairs,
yeah,
but then there are chairs that you build for the general public.
Yes.
And so there's a big difference because we are all so different.
We all are different. I mean, thank goodness that we're in a range and I don't have to build chairs for like millipedes or something, but I don't know how to build a chair for a butterfly, yeah. But you're right. And so all of these, you find out where the range is, and then like when I'm building a chair like this is for a particular person. But if this were for a general audience, this would be up 2 inches higher, so that these will bite into the shoulders of a larger person. And so if you move that up 2 inches, then you've got a chair for general consumption. And so like 9 inches, well, this is actually 8 inches here, and then probably 24 inches. You'll get 90% of the people. But for the person this is designed for, this is like their chair.
That's right.
And everyone else should not sit in it.
So everything starts with the seat.
Yeah.
And then support. Legs have a lot to do with the angles and the height. And so how do you come up with?
Well, Welsh chairs are funny in that they have really radical. I mean, the rake and splay on these is pretty radical from a Windsor point of view, and they do relate to how stable the chair is. So one of the things we're going to do, I will do here, is when I get this, the way that these rake back here to the back legs, is I want this to be in line the crest, so that when you sit, so this is here.
Yeah.
So when you sit and you tip back even a little bit, it doesn't feel like you're going to get bowled over. So that's why with a Welsh chair, especially one that has a lot of sit back, you want the legs to be kicked far back. As far as splay outward, this is to give the chair more stability just overall. It's very unlike most English chairs. English chairs would have very upright and proper formal legs, whereas this is much more like I just want it to not fall over when I'm drunk in this chair, I think is the idea behind it. And then there's the undercarriage, which doesn't really relate to the comfort, but relates to the strength. And you can see that this doesn't have an undercarriage. And there are a lot of people who say, well, gosh, you're ruining this chair, that your customers will never accept this chair because it won't be as durable.
Well, there are no stretchers.
There are no stretchers, and people think that stretchers are necessary, whereas the earliest chairs we have from Wales and from England and all these things, no stretchers whatsoever. And they've lasted 400 or 500 years just fine. So the trick there is to have really good joinery into the seat.
Which was the forerunner, the Windsor chair or the Welsh Stick Chair to the Windsor?
The earliest chair image we have of a chair like this, where the image, where the legs and everything are tenon into the seat, that's what makes what we call a Windsor, is a Welsh image. I think it's from the 12th century. So the Welsh claim it, and I'll let them have it because the English have yet to come up with a better image. I don't think there's any doubt that they're very much related, and who knows who started the first one, but they're. I got to give it to the Welsh. I like theirs because they don't. The whole things are much less formal, and I'm not like a formal, elaborate guy. So so that's kind of my affection for it.
Thank you. Learned more about the Welsh chair than I ever knew.
Well, it's a funny chair. Thanks for coming.
Tell you what, spoon carving is all the rage. It's a great way for a woodworker to really learn some new skills because you've really got to watch the grain, and the grain in wood is kind of what it's all about, especially when you're carving. So this is something you can maybe do at home if you're away from your shop or just sit and whittle. More Knife has got a great little set of a 120 Sloyd type knife that provides a lot of power, and it also will provide a lot of detail carving with this sharp point. The other part of this great set is a 1/64 hook knife. Now, what you do with this is you want to be able to use this to carve the bowl of spoons, small bowls. There's so much you can do with it. Any place that you need to kind of scoop out something cross grain is a great place to use the 1/64 hook knife. If you need a great book to give you some background and give you some ideas about the artistry of spoon carving, we've got one for you. The book I recommend is The Artful Wooden Spoon by Joshua Vogel. You will marvel at his craftsmanship and be inspired with his work. He also tells you how to do it, and that is a wonderful thing because you will be armed with the Mora knife set and the information you need, and you can create your own wooden masterpieces. Spoon carving, it's up and coming, and your inspiration, your artwork is just waiting to be found. Get busy with Mora Knife.
Improve your woodworking experience. Sign up for Wood News Online, a monthly newsletter showcasing the latest news, tips, and classes Highland Woodworking has to offer. By signing up, you'll receive the latest episode of the Highland Woodworker, special store promotions, and Wood News Online delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up today.
That's all the time we have for the show today. But check us out on social media and come back to see us next time on the Highland Woodworkers.